Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 282 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson Mummy. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday weekend, that you got lots of rest and good time with family and friends. For those who are traveling, particularly in the Midwest, I hope you survived that experience. Sounds like it was quite a weekend. Down here in Florida, we're just chilling out in the 70s, so no judgment there. In any event, we're glad to have you with us today. I know that most of the world starts counting down at this point to Christmas. But bar takers have a different countdown in their heads, and that's the countdown until the next bar exam. And of course, that'll be the one in February 2020, and we're around 90 days until that exam. And I wanted to address a question that comes up right away when we cross over that threshold around Thanksgiving, and that is, do I have enough time to study for the upcoming test? And the answer is yes. In our course, it takes about 250 to 300 hours of total study time. That's the time for reading, lectures, question practice, and review. Now, if you divide that number into the remaining number of days, you can see it's about 3 hours a day on average. And for most people, that's manageable because we're really looking at somewhere in that 20 to 25 hour a week range. Once you get past about 25 hours a week of study, you will probably have to cut back on something. A little less time at work, maybe a few fewer events or family events, or maybe getting some help with family or other responsibilities, but certainly it can be done. So I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, it's too late for me to get started. That's particularly true if you took the exam in July of 2019 and didn't pass, because you've already got a basis of understanding the material, and so you should just jump back in. So I wanted to just get that up front for people because I know it's a topic on a lot of folks' minds. Well, in today's episode of the podcast, we've got another interview that I'm really excited to share with you. This was an interview that we just recently did with another successful Georgia bar taker. Malik had been a representative for one of the big box bar reviews when he was in law school, go figure, and it didn't work for him. And he tried hard, he did what they told him to do, he really put in the effort and the time, but just wasn't successful. And then after that, he decided to come to Celebration Bar Review, try something different, and he passed the Georgia exam in July of 2019. His story is really a wonderful one, particularly when he starts talking about how he told his grandmother and grandfather that he had passed and how important it was for them to hear that news. And I think you're really going to enjoy the story, but also his insights about how he studied, how he worked while he was studying, that same thing we were just talking about balancing your life. And it's a great story of success and perseverance. And so I hope you'll stick around for our interview with him. Now, before we jump to the interview, I just want to let you know that this week's episode of our podcast is brought to you by our free online on-demand training program. It's called Do Something Different, Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. This is a look at the 4 steps that successful bar takers follow in order to pass their exam. You'll hear from successful students like Malik in their own words about what they did and how it worked for them. And it's really, I think, an incredibly helpful presentation in terms of just giving you a sense of what the process is like and what you need to do and why it's so important to do something different. Now, this 90-minute training is completely free, and best of all, it's available to be scheduled on demand. All you have to do is jump on the show notes, and you'll see a button to register here on the video version or on the audio version, or you can go to celebrationbarreview.com/webinar for more details. Then once you've selected the webinar, you can pick the day and time that works best for you and check it out. If you have questions while you're watching, just shoot them in the app and we'll get them and reply back to you. So it's a pretty convenient way to get through this material, and I really encourage you to do so. Thousands of people have been through the webinar and had great success, so I hope you'll join us for that. Now, I did mention that our podcast is in both video and audio format. If you'd like to watch today's interview with Malik, you can go to celebrationbarreview.com/282. That's the episode number. If you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, radio.com, lots of places where podcasts are syndicated. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. In upcoming weeks, we're going to be talking about preparation for the February 2020 exam. I'm also going to be taking a look back at the California exam in July 2019, starting to get some information now about what happened with their early release of topics. And it's not a pretty picture, I got to tell you. So we'll be sharing some of that. In any event, there's a lot coming up in the next few weeks. We don't want you to miss any of it. So I hope you'll subscribe and check it out. All right. Well, I don't want you to have to wait any longer. Really enjoyed this conversation I had with Malik, and I think you're going to enjoy it as well. Successful Georgia bar exam taker. Let's jump into that. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. And we have a great story ahead today. And as someone who's about to be sworn into the Georgia bar, Malik Foster. Malik, how are you?
I'm good, Jackson. How are you doing?
Well, I'm great, but I'm imagining that you must be over the moon. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm highly excited. I'm so thankful that I passed the Georgia bar exam.
Yeah. This has been quite a journey for you, and I appreciate you coming on to share the story with other people. You told me right before we went on, you're going to take your oath just in a few days, right?
Yes, the oath, I will be taking it December 6th.
Okay. And what does that mean to you to be at a point where you're literally now going to go stand there, hold up your hand, and be sworn into the bar?
I mean, it's so special to me. It was a goal and dream of mine to actually take the oath while my grandparents are still alive. So I'm going to achieve that goal. They're going to be able to be there. My grandmother's health is good. She just had surgery on her knee to repair it, so she's able to walk around. So they're going to be there for sure. They wouldn't miss it for the world. So
yeah,
very happy.
Yeah,
about
proud
that.
Grandparents for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Bragging to everybody.
That's great. Well, let's backtrack for just a minute and let's go back to the start of your journey in taking the bar exam. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your background and when you first started, into law school and then into the bar?
Okay. Well, I went to Western Michigan University, Cooley Law School, formerly known as Thomas M. Cooley Law School, but they changed the name. I attended there. It was a bit of a struggle. I did good sometimes. I made the dean's list a few times, but I would say about an average student, over 2.5 GPA. So no super grades. I wasn't booking any classes. And then I became a Kaplan representative because I knew taking the bar review courses were expensive. So I became a Kaplan rep, and then I was repping for Kaplan, became the head Kaplan rep, sold a few courses, enough courses to get the Kaplan course for free. And I proceeded to enroll in the Georgia bar exam because that was always my goal.
And when was that? What date was that? What exam did you take first? Do you remember?
I think July 2016 I started.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the first one.
So you come into Georgia, coming from Michigan, and you sit for the exam in Georgia. And what is that like?
Well, sitting for the exam, it's a big room. I was handwriting, so a lot more people were handwriting back then. I think everybody's caught on to switch to typing. It was definitely a different atmosphere. I've never taken a test with that many people in one large room. So for people who have anxiety issues, I can understand why you get high levels of stress. I wasn't too stressed out, but I was still nervous. But once I got into the exam, my nervousness goes away. But that's just like me for anything. Like once something starts, my nervousness just goes right out the window.
Okay. So you took the exam July 2016. You don't pass the exam, right?
Yeah, I didn't pass the exam July 2016. I believe, what did I get? I got like a 224. It was terrible.
So people know you need a 270 in Georgia to pass, right? So, what's your reaction after the results come out from that exam?
Well, I didn't understand it because I studied so much for so long. I didn't understand where did I go wrong. My MBE score wasn't good either. It was like 120 something, 124, 127, something like that. Mm-hmm. Everything was bad. My writing was bad. So I just didn't know where I went wrong. I'm like, maybe because some things were going on in my personal life with my living situation, maybe that was an issue. So I kind of chucked it up to that. Like maybe that was the cause, but it really wasn't.
Okay. So what happens next?
Well, what happens after that, I proceeded to take it again with Kaplan because they offer the free recourse. And basically the results were basically the same. I went up 8 points.
Okay.
So no big difference. I believe it was 232 or 231, around there in the 230s. So that's exactly what happened.
Okay. So that's discouraging and disappointing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So what happens next?
Well, what happened after that is I started searching for different ways to pass the bar, searching for a different course because Kaplan was not it. And I didn't know how to take the test. So then people were telling me about Adaptabar. I got that. And then I found some videos on you and stuff like that. So then the next year, I started to enroll in your course, I believe, at the end of 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I enrolled in your course, and that's when I saw different results. You told me different strategies and things of that nature.
Right. And you signed up for one of our mentoring coaching courses. You and I worked together. We talked about your writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talked. Yeah, we went in
What was that experience like? Yeah, talk about that.
It was very helpful. It was a different approach. I had to learn a whole new approach to writing because in law school, in your law school exams, you're used to writing in the IRAC format, and you teach us FLA. So that was a stark difference for me.
Yeah. What about, it's definitely a different writing style, but you got comfortable with it. You began to feel more comfortable and to master that. And by writing about facts and then the legal arguments and then the application, it seemed to make your writing a lot more direct, a lot more powerful, right?
Yes, I was able to narrow down the issues a lot easier. I was able to have the confidence, which I think is important, having the confidence on the exam to pass it, helped me with my confidence with my essays. So that was important for me because I didn't have the strongest confidence in my writing ability.
Yeah, and I thought you gained a lot of confidence as you started to work through and get the feedback and do some of those assignments. On the multi-state side, what was happening? How were you approaching the multi-state?
For the MBE, my approach was a little bit different. One of my law school professors, they told me they did like 4,000, 2,000 multiple choice questions. I thought that was a bit much because I'm like, I still have other things I'm doing. But I did do a lot of multiple choice questions on Adaptabar. And once I got that and I saw similar styled bar review questions, I was able to, achieve an average of 135 and above on my MBE scores consistently and do really well.
And you were using our multiple choice or multi-state materials as well, right?
Yes, I use both. I used Adaptabar and I used your multi-state materials. Primarily your tests were very good the way you had them. So
okay. Now, during this time that you were studying, were you working also?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes,
how many working. Okay. So how many hours a week would you say you were averaging in your studies?
A week? About 25 to 30 hours a week. Okay. Once I started your program and stuck to it consistently, I was not doing the 8-hour, 10-hour days I was doing when I was under Kaplan.
Yeah. And how were you organizing a day when were you working like a 9-to-5 kind of job or did you have different hours?
Well, my job isn't necessarily 9 to 5. It's just like I have to complete my tasks and I have up to 40 hours to complete my tasks. So I could kind of switch around my hours.
Okay. So how did you structure that with the work and the study? Did you have a particular schedule you were following or was it different every day?
It was pretty consistent, but it did vary. For as far as consistency goes, I want to say I usually focused on my studies towards the nighttime. So like I would get up in the morning, try to get a lot of work done, get like at least an 8-hour day in. And then at night, give it a good 3 to 6 hours at night to study, at least a minimum of 3 hours. And then I can call it quits. But, sometimes it varied, but that was the consistent schedule.
Yeah. Okay, so you start in on the exam, and your scores are running in the uh, high 240s, low 250s, right?
Yes.
Um, what does that feel like to you? I mean, just in terms of the emotions and the approach, is it discouraging? Do you ever feel like maybe I should just give up and stop doing this? Or tell me how that felt for you.
Well, it is a bit discouraging and a bit disappointing, but I rarely ever quit anything that I start. So
Mhm.
I have a little bit of a hard head, so I'm a little different. So I'll keep going. So it is discouraging, but I always bounce back. It takes me maybe a week or two. I'll feel down on myself, but after that, I'll bounce right back and keep moving forward because it's a goal and dream of mine, and it's not easy. So I have to keep it going.
Yeah. So you had some ups and downs as you're studying and as your scores come back. Sometimes your scores are getting closer to the 270 mark. Sometimes you're falling back a little bit. Um, what is your mindset coming into the July 2019 exam? What are you thinking about as you start to prepare for that exam?
Oh, my main focus was the MPT and the
Hmm.
essays because I knew MBE, I had that solid. Like that was solid. So the
Yeah.
essays, I was focusing on finishing them, doing FLA no matter what, and hopefully get familiar with your computer because last time I had a computer issue, or I think I would have passed that previous
Yeah.
exam as well. And really focus on the MPT. So I did a lot more MPT, make sure I finish, make sure I have my strategies down, and I was able to handle any issue that was brought to me because that was my main struggle. And the thing that caused me the most anxiety was the MPT because it's
Hmm.
like a lot of information. And I felt like they don't really give you enough time for the amount of information, but it's like designed that way. So it was just messing with my brain. But once I got comfortable with that, I was able to successfully complete them. And that was what I think really pushed me over the top.
Yeah, and we have lots of MPTs and sample answers and workshops and so on. And I know that you had gone through those and worked on those, and you were being really diligent in your study and following through and making sure that it was pretty consistent. And because you had a solid multi-state score, it felt like if you could just move the writing needle up, that was going to be the difference for you, right?
Yes, exactly. That's all I needed to do was get like above like a 131 with my writing, and I think my multi-state score would take care of the rest, which it did.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you were scoring a 140, 135 to 140 pretty consistently on the multi-states. So felt
Yep.
like that was the number that we were aiming for. So you go to the exam in July of 2019. Um, what are you thinking as you come into the room this time? Does it feel like this is going to be the time? It's going to be different for you?
Yeah, I was relaxed. I was not stressed at all. Um, I was prepared for the performance test. I completed them. As soon as I completed them, I was like, all right, you got this. All you got to do
Yeah, and
is
that's
do
the
what
first
you
part
got.
of Tuesday morning, right? They do the performance test first. So
Yeah, like that really makes or breaks you. Like if I felt like all the times I failed, I felt iffy about the performance test, but this time it was different. I
yeah.
was confident in it.
Yeah, yeah. And that gives you the momentum. You go into Tuesday afternoon, you've got the essays. Georgia essays are never easy, are they? Um,
No, nope, not at all. These essays they weren't too difficult, but then again, I've been studying so long, but they weren't
yeah,
too easy either.
yeah.
They like to trick you.
They do, and they're not short questions. I mean, you get 45 minutes, but they're 60 minutes in length questions, and you got to answer them in 45. So I think it's one of the more challenging essay
Hmm.
tests in the country, and it comes from a really wide range of subjects, doesn't it? I mean, a lot of potential topics they can test on.
Yeah, sometimes they'll do crossover topics, so that does make it even more difficult
Yeah.
as well.
During the 2 days of the exam, talk a little bit about how you kept your focus. What did you do to not get lost in the drama of the moment?
Well, this is what I kind of do during my exam. So, like, it's a long, stressful exam. So, I kind of take little mini breaks, per se, where, like, especially during the multiple choice section where it's like nonstop, you're not really seeing too much different stuff. You have to read a question, go through four, your brain's constantly thinking. You don't get any type of mental reprieve. So, sometimes I I would take like a 30-second to a minute break and relax. Even though it kind of might cost me time where I only have 5 minutes to answer like maybe 7 questions, I prefer that as opposed to me just, fading out essentially towards the last 15, 20 questions.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Planning a scheduled pit stop or a break and saying, I know I'm going to take a bit of time here makes a big difference. And of course, the bar exam in Georgia is in Atlanta. It is a big room. It's a lot of people in that room, particularly in July, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like over 1,000 people.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, on typing day, that's just insane. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you finished the exam. Did you feel like at that point when you walked out of the exam, like, okay, I think I got it this time, it's done?
I felt confident. I felt like they should pass me this time because I felt like I would have passed before had my computer didn't fail me.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
MBA
let's talk about that previous time because you had a really good multi-state score, and then your writing score just fell right through the roof. Right through the floor. I was like, and I saw it. I said, Malik, what's going on? And you said, well, you tell the story. What happened with your computer?
Okay, what happened was I want to say a few days before the exam, Georgia Bar sent you an email about your computer. Make sure you check it and everything. So I'm like, okay, I checked it, and they got a new software, I believe, or a new company that we're working for. And basically we had to re-download this new software for free. It was for free because we already paid for the old one. So they were giving it to us for free. But I had to switch and get a new computer. So I got a new computer. I wasn't used to typing on it. It was much bigger. And the software was not really integrating well with my computer, but eventually we got it resolved in time for the exam and I was able to take it, but I wasn't used to typing on it. So I haven't had at least 2 weeks. It takes me a few weeks, like at least 2 weeks to get used to it. I've only had the computer for like 5 days and I haven't practiced anything on it. So my typing speed was slower than usual. I wasn't comfortable. So that's why my essay sucked because I knew the answers to the essay questions. I was like, these essays aren't hard.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story here for people that are in the audience is get your equipment set up, get it right, use what you're going to be using on the bar exam, and really make yourself comfortable with it. Because I know that for you, you were very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and this thing with Exemplify, whatever they call them, is they keep switching up and they keep making changes, and it's the tech works. We don't have people's computers breaking the way they used to in the early days of typing the exams, but there are a lot of weird things that happen, and you have to really kind of keep your cool and know what you're doing. And so getting your equipment early, getting set up, getting all of the software loaded, and then continuing to watch the emails from the bar examiners. And there's plenty, aren't there? I mean, they just
exactly. And they did this to me last minute. That was the problem. It was just like a week before the exam. I'm like, oh, come on, you guys are really doing this to me. So I had to get a new computer and all this other stuff. So
yeah, it definitely makes a difference. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. So you came out of this exam July 2019, and now you're waiting for results. What's the wait like for you? You've been down this road before. You're working. That's the good news, right?
All too familiar.
But what is it like to be waiting for results?
Well, it's very nerve-wracking. You're very anxious. You're hoping you pass. You start self-analyzing yourself and being your biggest critic. You're like, oh man, I should have did this. I didn't finish that. Because on the multiple choice, I was cool, but I guessed on like the last 2. I was just overanalyzing that. I completed the exam, all portions, but I was still self-analyzing myself like, oh, I should have wrote about this argument, this, that, and the third. So you're really just battling mentally with yourself.
Yeah. And then Georgia decides they announce their release date for results. But of course, being Georgia, what did they do?
What does Georgia do? They send you a little email saying check your bar website, and I was like, okay. I was in the bathroom when I got to the email. I was like, I'm just finishing up in the bathroom, and I was like, okay. I was going to go to work too, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little something different. Usually I wait until I come home, but I'm like, you know what? This time I'm going to be different. I'm going to check the results while I'm home, and I saw that I didn't see any red. I'm like, where's my red? I'm like, this is weird. Like, I was so used to not passing. I was like, where's the red? And then it saw that I achieved the passing score, and I just threw my phone and my hands up.
That's awesome, man. That's
enjoy.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great.
Well, we invite our guests on this show to have a moment where they get to count down and scream, "I have my life back," because that's what it feels like, isn't it? You finally get your life back.
Yeah, exactly. Or starting a new life.
Yeah. So will you humor me, and we'll do a countdown. I'll count us down 3, 2, 1, and then you can just yell as loud as you want. I have my life back. Okay.
Oh,
ready?
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Go.
I have my life back. Yes.
That feels good, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It feels real good. It feels great.
Yeah, that is a great feeling, and just knowing that you got it done, and then of course, I guess you shared this with your grandparents right away. This news.
Oh yes, I called them right away. I was late to work. I didn't care.
Yeah. And what did the grandparents have to say?
Oh, they were so proud of me. My grandma's crying and everything. Everybody's so proud of me. My pop's more stoic, but he's still proud of me all the same.
Yeah, we're proud of you too. I mean, this is a big deal. Passing the bar is really difficult. The pass rate for repeat bar takers in Georgia is about 20 to 25%. So you're definitely beating the odds when you come in and have a result like this. What advice would you give people who are maybe in your shoes? They've taken the exam, they have not been successful. They're looking at these difficult numbers and odds. What would you tell them?
Well, I would say definitely get Celebration Bar Review course because it helped me. If anything, your course mainly helps you with gaining that confidence. I think that's the number one thing your course helped me with. Of course, it's the substantive stuff, but you can get substantive stuff for other courses too. But your course primarily helps gaining the confidence based off the strategies, because it's like simplified to the point where anybody can approach it and it makes common sense. And that's the main thing in your course, common sense arguments. And for the multiple choice, I like your approach as well as adaptive bar as well, just to get more extra practice and supplements. Mm-hmm. So if you do those things, follow your course, you should pass or be near passing to where you gain that confidence to even repeat again.
Yeah. So. And I know that there are lots of people that take the big box courses, whether they're reps for them or not. And those courses are good, but if they don't work for people, I think it's important to point out that you made a decision to do something different, right? That you recognize that just continuing to do the same thing wasn't going to change for you.
Exactly. Like doing Kaplan, it was just the questions weren't similar to the bar. Their essay graders were just all over the place. Everything just seemed disorganized. It helped build up my stamina for test taking because I've never taken a 3-hour test before, or 6 hours, however. 6-hour test before.
6 hours for 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 6-hour test. But other than that, it didn't really help substantively. I knew the law, but it just didn't help.
Right. And so I think there's a point where a bar taker has to recognize that if they've taken that law school bar review course and it didn't work, that it's time to refocus and think about something different. And I think for you, that was one of the things that I admired the most, was that you were just simply saying, okay, I'm turning the page on that. I'm going on to this. I'm going to build on my strengths, and then I'm going to move towards my goal. And you were relentless in moving towards it. No matter what was happening, you were going to get this done. And
exactly.
I thought that's one of the great, really admirable qualities that you've got. Admirable.
Thank you.
Wow. It is early, folks. We're recording early this morning.
Yeah, we are.
But I'm so excited for you. What do you plan to do after you get sworn in as an attorney? Do you have plans for your bar membership?
Yes. When I get sworn in, after I get sworn in, I plan to probably continue the work I'm doing. I'm doing document review work. Probably do that in Atlanta sometime next year, move up there because I'm currently in Florida right now. And also probably connect with some of the attorneys from my school and friends that I know up there and try to get some general practitioner experience because I really want to focus in on the areas of business law, transactional work, and wills, estates, and trusts, and maybe possibly some real estate law. So those are my areas of focus, and that's
Great.
my plan and strategy.
Yeah, and Atlanta's a really booming, growing area, right? So
yes,
a lot
it is
going on there. Yeah, that's fabulous. Well, I am so pleased for you and proud of you, as I say.
Thank you, Jackson. I appreciate it. All the credit goes to you. All the credit goes to you and your course.
Well, thank you. That's very kind, but you did all the work, so we appreciate that. And I really am thankful for you sharing your story, because I know that there are a lot of people out there, Malik, who have been trying and just kind of hitting the wall and feeling like, oh my gosh, I just can't make this happen. And I think when they get to hear your story, they'll realize that if you just keep working, if you keep at it, if you keep making the adjustments and the changes that you need to improve, that you can reach the point where you pass. When you got that passing result, did it make it all worthwhile for you, all of the journey and all of the frustration and struggle?
Yes, all the frustration, all the struggle, the money, the cost of everything, it really was worth it, because had I not done all of those things, I wouldn't have passed. I would still be in the position I was previously, still taking the bar exam, still struggling, still paying money every couple months, take the bar, retake the course, sign up for a death bar or whatever. So.
Yeah, and I think that sense of getting your life back is financial as well as time.
Exactly.
As well as
I don't have to keep paying for that stupid bar exam and then paying for the parking and just
that's right.
Mental torture.
That's right.
It's over for now.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, I look forward to great things from you. I think you're going to be a terrific member of the bar. I'm so glad that you are joining the Georgia Bar, and we're just so very pleased for you. And thanks so much for coming on today and sharing your story. I know it's going to encourage a lot of people. Any last thoughts, anything you want to share with us before we jump off here?
Thank you, Jackson. I appreciate those kind words. I wouldn't have passed the bar without your bar review course. And to the people who are watching and listening to this podcast, keep going, keep pushing, follow Jackson's study guide and his plan, and stick to it, and you will eventually pass. Trust me, because I'm a living example of it. So keep going.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. Glad to be with you. Thank you, Malik, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Well, that's our episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation with Malik. I really enjoyed talking to him, and it was exciting to hear what he's done and what he's got going on and the future for him. So if you've been feeling like, oh my gosh, I just don't know how I can do it, really encourage you to check out the free upcoming webinar that we've got. It's called Do Something Different. Make the next bar exam your last bar exam. And you can sign up for free. Just jump on the show notes or go to celebrationbarreview.com/webinar. And then you can schedule an on-demand showing that's the most convenient time and date for you. All right, everybody. Well, hope that you have overcome the Thanksgiving Day blahs after all that food and good food and good friends. And now you're into the study mode. And so we will be back to you again next week. We've got more information coming about the upcoming exams. And glad to have you, as always, with us along the extra mile.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.